friends, let's talk about September's reads. So before I get into the books that I read, I had a question for you, and I wanted to know, what is your God moment from this week? So this weekend at church, my pastor challenged us each to think about one moment in our week where we saw God or felt God's presence more than others, and to share that with someone. So you're going to be my someone today. And for me, it had to be when, my son has autism, which I've shared before, and he has a really hard time communicating about his day. So he will leave our house, go to school, come back home, and he really can't communicate anything about how his day went or really show any emotions about it whatsoever. Now, if he's in a good mood or a bad mood, we can kind of tell. But this past week, his class went to a pumpkin patch, and that moment, I can't imagine. There he is. It's okay. Come on. I can't imagine taking all these kids on all these kids to the pumpkin patch. But 2, he came home telling me all about the pumpkin, or telling my husband about the pumpkin and what he wanted to do. What did we do with the pumpkin?
Yeah.
Did we make it happy? We made a happy pumpkin. Yeah, he wanted to cut it open and make a happy face on it. Oh, you gonna take those? Okay. But that was absolutely one of the moments that week where I was like, you know what? Sometimes as parents, we feel like we have to do it all on our own, and we have to, yeah, good job, have to make all the impact ourselves. And I know that this boy is surrounded with a tribe of people who absolutely love him. You say hi? Oh, silly goose. You silly goose. And I don't know, that was my moment this week. So I'd love to hear in the comments down below. Let me know, what was your moment this week that just stood out? And if you can't come up with one, maybe one from the past, but I would love to hear those down below. All right, so on to the books that I read this month. I read, look at my list here. I thought it was 9, but I think it was. I read 11 books in the month of September. I had a lot of really, really good reads, and I finished a bunch of books that I was like in the middle of. I realized this month how much I like soft DNF books. So I, instead of just putting them down and saying, it's not for me, I set it aside, because a lot of the times it's because I'm not in the mood for them. I'm a very, very big mood reader. I do not like to set TBRs. I've attempted in the past, but I am not good at following through with a TBR that I pick a month in advance, because I don't know, my mood changes, things in life happen. If I'm really busy, I want a lighter read. If I have a little bit more time to delve into a more serious or dense book, then I will pick up those reads. So I pick up what I'm going to enjoy. I want to enjoy my reading. I don't want it to be work. And so a TBR, sometimes I will pick certain books that I really want to get to, or I'm going to read it with somebody. That will put on a list that I will read. But for the most part, I just pick books up and put them down when I'm not in the mood for them anymore. Because I do want to give the authors the chance they deserve to have a good review from me. And if maybe the book just wasn't right for me at that time, my review really wouldn't be very good for it. And maybe I would have loved it at a later time when I had less going on, or I had different things in my life happening. And so I say that to say I did finish a bunch of books that I had already been in the middle of, that I was just trying to push through, because there were a lot of books that I was starting that there were a lot of books that I did start on October 1st for buddy reads, that I wanted to have kind of a clear plate to start whatever books I needed to start. So let's see. I started the month with, I think I ended August. This might have been the last day of August I finished this one, and that was Authentically, Izzy by Pepper Basham. Love this book. This was a reread. It was on my cozy fall rereads. I'm not saying that it's super fall, but I wanted to read some cozy books going into the cozy season. And so Authentically Izzy, I absolutely loved it. It's like, I don't know, it was like a warm hug going back into this book. I loved the banter between the characters. I loved the family dynamics and the friendships. It just, I don't know, the bookish references. So some of my friends like the second one more than this one. This one is definitely my favorite because it has all the bookish references, cozy bookshops and libraries and all the things that make a book feel cozy to me. So 5-star, again, absolutely loved it. Highly recommend it if you have not picked it up yet. The next book I finished was Winter Maiden by Morgan Bussey. I loved this book. It did start off slow. I talked about this in my vlog when I was reorganizing my bookshelf. So I have kind of talked about this a little bit. We follow Bridget, who was born... She's known as a clanless one. She was born and her mother passes away right at the beginning. Her father can't take care of her, and so she is kind of left on her own. The midwife that delivers her actually raises her. We follow her as she's trying to find her place in this world where she doesn't really know exactly where she comes from, and in this world, the clans and knowing your heritage is very, very important. And that's how people kind of group themselves together. And then you have these people on the outside who are the clanless ones. And you have Bridget, who is clanless and really trying to find her place in the world and what her purpose is. And she definitely knows it's not a midwife because she's attempted it, not kind of, or a healer. It's not in her wheelhouse to do that. And then along the way, we see her kind of find her path, go for it with all she has. And I love the world that is being built here. And this is the first book in a series. It's book 1. So I wouldn't say it ends on a cliffhanger, but I am wanting more. So I can't wait till the next one comes out. I'm sure it'll be a little bit. This one was a brand new release. Absolutely enjoyed it. I loved the tie-ins to the way Christ loves us. And that was, it screamed to me the way Christ loves us, in that we are called to give of ourselves to each other. We are called to serve one another. And there was a part in here about the healing and how they would absorb the wounds of another and be able to heal themselves. But it was a process, and it was a self-sacrificing healing, and it was beautiful, and I loved it. It was so good. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars because the beginning was slow and it was hard to get into. Maybe that was a me problem. We were also on a trip. I was listening to the audiobook while I had all the kids in the back seat, so that's always distracting and makes it harder to really engage with a story when you have a lot of different things going on. But that's a lot of books for me, so I think it just had a little bit of a slow start, but it definitely picked up, and I can't wait to read the next one. And I'm back. I had to stop for all the things, all the nighttime things, and now I've got 2 of the 3 boys to bed, and I'm sorry about the lighting change. I'm just going to have to roll with it. This is the time that I have. So the next book that I picked up was For a Lifetime by Gabriel Meyer. This was a buddy read with Bethany's Bookshelf, and I absolutely loved this book. We follow Grace and Hope, and they have 2 timelines. They actually travel to these 2 timelines together, which was one of my big questions for this book when I saw that it was twins. They actually travel from timeline to timeline together. One of the timelines is during the Salem witch trials, which I didn't know a lot about. Like, I learned generally in school, but it wasn't a topic that really interested me, and so I never went further into it. So I loved learning a little bit about that time in history from this book. The other time was in the 1920s, talking about aviation. I'm always amazed at how Gabriel Meyer ties 2 very different timelines together into this beautiful, amazing story. And there is always such a good message and such good faith content throughout. Living your life for the Lord. This is so good. If you haven't picked up this series, I highly recommend it. This one I think is my favorite one of the series so far. I really, really enjoyed this one. I cannot wait to pick up the next book in the series, Across the Ages. It's Pirates, and what was the other timeline? Oh, Prohibition, 1920s. Was this one 1920s? No, this one was 1912. Sorry, I was jumping ahead in timeline. So this one's 1912, and Salem Witch Trials, which were 1692, and the new one that's coming out is 1920s, and then a timeline with pirates in it. So I'm really excited to pick that one up. So the next book I picked up was Faking the Fall by Julie Christensen. I actually picked up this one, and this one, and this one. I really have enjoyed this series. So Faking the Fall, we have a movie star and a music teacher who end up fake dating to kind of save his reputation, and the cute romance goes from there. I really enjoyed this one. I will definitely pick up another one by Julie Christensen. This was my first book from this author, and it left me intrigued. I really enjoyed, like, the first part of it. I think I read at a time, like I talked about earlier, I'm such a mood reader. So I picked it up, and it's one that I put down. I think I had some other books that came up, maybe from Libby. Who knows? There's always a distraction that comes in. So I set it down, and when I picked it back up, I enjoyed it a lot more. So that's kind of the method to my madness. I don't like to push through books if I know that it's probably something I will like. I just am not liking it right now. And this book definitely fit that. I really enjoyed this one. The next one, Easy as Pie. So in this one we have a doctor, and she is a mechanic, and he comes back after medical school and working in the Northwest for quite a while. And then they kind of have some old feelings for each other flare up throughout the story. I don't like to tell you a lot about the stories. They're sweet. They're cute. I really enjoyed it. This one was a 4-star read for me. And the next one was A Not So Fictional Fall by Savannah Scott. I love this one. This was a 5-star read. So in this book, we follow Pierre and Tasha, and it was such a sweet, fun read. He is French, a French author. So she is a bookstagrammer. She talks about books and reviews books and works in the background. She does audio recordings for books and different promotions. So she's in the book industry. He is an author, kind of a secret author. And so, I don't know, it was adorable. They end up in a marriage of convenience that is so sweet. And I highly recommend this one if you want a sweet fall read. This was probably my favorite one in the series so far this year. I think there's one more. Jenny Proctor. I might pick that one up on Kindle. It's probably on Kindle Unlimited. I will see. But if I want to, I may not. I kind of want to leave one for next year. We'll see. I'll let you know. So the next 2 books I finished were from the Harry Potter series. I continued on. It was The Chamber of Secrets and The Prisoner of Azkaban. I enjoyed them. Chamber of Secrets is probably not my favorite. It's probably my least favorite in the whole series. There's nothing wrong with it, and I'm not quite sure why it's my least favorite. I don't know. It's good, but it's not my favorite. My favorite is actually the 3rd one, Prisoner of Azkaban. I love the changes that happen in this book. I love the things that kind of give that hopeful feeling, and we see so much more of Harry, bringing out his own strength. Not just what he got from his parents, not just the protections and all of the things that he got from his parents, but that he is kind of learning about himself, that he is strong enough and that he can overcome things, which it makes my heart happy. I love that book. Goblet of Fire is the next one, and I have not picked it up yet, and I don't know. I'm hoping to get through all of them, but if I stop there, I stop there. It's okay. The next book I picked up was Confessions by St. Augustine. This book surprised me. Really surprised me. It was a classic. I was watching a couple videos, a couple people talking about different faith books to read, specifically Catholic faith books. And So I watched several recommendation videos and this one kept coming up and I was like, sure, I'll try it. I want to immerse myself in more classics and attempt it. Doesn't mean I have to love them, but I do want to attempt to read them and kind of see my own thoughts and feelings towards them. This book, I was amazed at how much it had to do with my own life, which it was written in the 300s AD. In this book, he goes through and kind of works his way through his life and the different situations and things where he wished he would have done better. He explores how he came to his faith and how he sees his past and the things that he did and the choices that he made, and kind of walks through how he got there, what he wished he would have done, and how it affected his life from there on out. I talked about this in my trying to finish up the books and redoing my bookshelf vlog, and I was in tears sometimes, like when he talked about the loss of his mother and just this, I don't know, it was so good. The last few chapters were a little bit different, which was fine. It had a point. It just didn't feel cohesive with the rest of the book, but he's much smarter than I am, so that's okay. I gave it 4 stars and I would definitely recommend this book. The next book that I picked up was Meddling with Mistletoe by Liz Johnson. This is a book I saw it on Instagram. I kind of looked into the book, I looked at the author, and I was very interested. It's part of the Red Door Inn series, which I have not read any of the other books in that series, so I went in thinking maybe there's going to be pieces that I'm going to be missing, and I feel like there might have been some connections that I could have made if I'd read the other books first, but there were no issues going in just reading this one first. So in this story, we follow Whitney and Daniel. Whitney is trying to pay for culinary school. She's kind of had a series of misses where she tries something and then decides, no, that's not for me, and then she tries something else and decides, no, that's not for me. And so we see her kind of in the middle of starting something new and worried that maybe that's not what she needs, maybe that's not what she wants, running into the issue of being able to financially afford it. So at the beginning of the story, her oven goes out and she is making money to pay for culinary school by baking goods and selling them at the local markets. So she ends up going to her friends where she worked in the previous year. I don't know. See, that's where I'm thinking I missed part of it, and maybe I should go back and read the other books. So she ends up striking a deal where she will cook for the guests at the inn while she's able to use the ovens to bake for her markets to be able to earn the money she needs to pay for culinary school. In this, we have Daniel, who is one of the guests, and his meddling aunt, who is trying to set him up and get him to fall in love and finally have somebody to spend his Christmases in life with. It was super cute. I really enjoyed this one. It does have faith elements in it. It is a clean, cute Christmas read. I highly recommend it. I thoroughly enjoyed this read. So the last book that I finished this month was The Hobbit. This is my first read of The Hobbit. So I grew up in a house I had 4 brothers, and this book was read. We watched the movies. We watched all the Lord of the Rings movies countless times, but I had never gone back and actually read the book. And so I knew a lot of the plot points that were going to happen, the different places they go along their adventure, but I finally went back and read the story, and this was so good. So in my reread, it technically wasn't nostalgic because I've never read the book, but it definitely felt nostalgic from all of my memories with my brothers and dad growing up, watching this movie, listening to it over and over. Even if I wasn't sitting there watching it, it was still playing in the background constantly. So I really enjoyed this one. Definitely an instant favorite, and one that I will reread with my boys at some point. All right, so those are the 11 books that I read in the month of September. Let me know what your thoughts are on these books, if you've read any of them, or if you have any books to recommend to me based on what I've talked about here. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.